Hello, I'm Cynthia Nelson. This is a video diary for any current insurance company covering the Baca Grande Property Owners Association in Crestone, Colorado. It's also for the Colorado State Attorney General's office. It is also for any future insurance companies that are thinking about covering the Baca Grande Property Owners Association. This is evidence of fraud and coercion that they commit against their residents, and some evidence of perhaps participation in some other criminal activity. This is evidence of the Saguache County Sheriff's Department failing to provide equal protection under the law and participating in their harassment and coercion. So I'm going to try to get everything in a good chronological order. And let me begin. My problems began probably in the first 6 months with these governing documents and trying to put up a wind turbine for renewable energy. Okay, and contrary to renewable energy law, they deny the ability to put up this renewable energy in Chalet 1, which is where I lived. So even though gas electrical generators are allowed, wind generators can be used in an alternative source of power in the grants, is what they say, if they conform to the rules and guidelines. So I was denied my ability to put up a wind turbine or renewable energy, contrary to the laws. And this was around the time Donald Trump said that windmills kill birds. Although statistics show that isn't true, the POA at the time, many of the members were Trump supporters and believed everything that came out of his mouth, and QAnon believers. So one of the emails I got, in addition to the zoning issues, your neighbors might object to wind machine that blocks the view and might be concerned about the noise. Most zoning and aesthetic concerns can be by supplying objective data. For example, the ambient noise issue, modern residential turbines is around 52 to 55 decibel levels. This means while the sound of the wind turbine can be picked up by surrounding noise, if a conscious effect is made to hear it. But after going on about the birds and threatening to sue me if I put it up, they started asking about the decibel level, the noise, and how high it would be. They go on to ask for several documents, and then they deny getting them. So they'll play this manipulation and harassment game with you, saying that denied the application because you have not provided the required documents. So I provided tons of documents on the law, that they don't kill birds, that I spent hundreds of dollars getting construction permits from Saguache County, state of Colorado, electrical permits. It was always denied.
An economy based on wind. I never understood wind, and I know windmills very much. I've studied it better than anybody. I know it's very expensive. They're made in China and Germany mostly. Very few made here, almost none. But they're manufactured tremendous, if you're into this, tremendous fumes, gases are spewing into the atmosphere. You know, we have a world, right? So the world is tiny compared to the universe. So tremendous amount of fumes and everything. You talk about the carbon footprint. Fumes are spewing into the air, right? Spewing. Whether it's in China, Germany, it's going into the air. It's our air, their air, everything, right? So they make these things, and then they put them up. And if you own a house within vision of some of these monsters, your house is worth 50% of the price. They're noisy. They kill the birds. You want to see a bird?
So after all the fuss about it killing birds and everything, I sent all the factual data that said it is not noisy, it does not kill birds. Sliding glass doors kill more birds, and windows kill more birds than personal wind turbines. But I also sent the laws stating that any property owners association that restricts the installation or use of a renewable energy generation device is void and unenforceable. I had obtained costly permits and sent multiple emails with links to articles that showed that bird safety was really not an issue with wind turbines nor decibel levels. I sent detailed specifications, answered all the questions, and in the end they still denied it, and the harassment began. Then came a request by me about a nonprofit I had started about an addiction treatment center for addiction treatment, and that goes unanswered. And I think this put me out of favor with them for good at this point. What came next was a prayer space, which required some clearing of land, and unfortunately I wasn't documenting things at this point. I didn't realize just how nefarious these people could be if you got on their bad list, so I just dropped it in the Dropbox. But here is later follow-up email, and the permits went ignored just like the other emails, and as it was a prayer space, I went ahead and exercised my constitutional right and cleared some land. I didn't remove any trees or anything. What happened at this point was that Connie Estrada Kathleen Kennedy came onto my property and began taking pictures of nebulous items I had. I have a clean, pleasant looking home, and they started taking pictures, and then they go back and they start sending you violations, and these are various dates and various violations, and that was August, this was September, this began in March of 2019, and they just keep coming with hundreds up into thousands of dollars that you owe, and they just keep coming in the mail one after the other. And I'll show you some of the things they found unsightly, called trash, ashes, refuge, unauthorized construction projects, landscaping. Okay, this was actually mentioned in the lawsuit, that these pallets were stacked. Actually, they were 2 pallets at the time on top of each other. This is pretty much what my house looked like on any given day. If you've ever been through Crestone, Colorado, This is considered a clean, orderly house compared to how they allow the others to exist. So this was a violation. It was my firewood. This was a little garden bridge. It was a kit and not a construction project, just around a little ditch in my house, in my backyard. This was a temporary little aesthetic looking fence around the propane tank. It was just easily pulls out of the ground.
Economy based on wind. I never understood wind, I know windmills very much. I've studied it better than anybody. I know it's very expensive. They're made in China and Germany mostly. Very few made here, almost none. But they're manufactured tremendous, if you're into this, tremendous fumes, gases are spewing into the atmosphere. We have a world, right? So the world is tiny compared to the universe. So tremendous amount of fumes and everything. You talk about the carbon footprint. Fumes are spewing into the air, right? Spewing. Whether it's in China, Germany, it's going into the air, it's our air, their air, everything, right? So they make these things, and then they put them up. And if you own a house within vision of some of these monsters, your house is worth 50% of the price. They're noisy. They kill the birds. You want to see a bird graveyard? You just go. Take a look. A bird graveyard? Go under a windmill someday. You'll see more birds than you've ever seen ever in your life. In California, they were killing the bald eagle. If you shoot a bald eagle, they want to put you in jail for 10 years. A windmill will kill many bald eagles. It's true. And you know what? After a certain number, they make you turn the windmill off. That's true, by the way. They make you turn it off after you. And yet, if you killed one, they put you in jail. That's okay. But why is it okay for these windmills to destroy the bird population? And that's what they're doing. I'll tell you another thing about windmills. And I like all forms of energy. And I think
So another thing that begins happening is that your payments go missing. And even though I had paid the years in advance, they start adding on, not acknowledging the payments and adding late fees. Of course, causing you to send canceled checks over and over again. And even by the time I got into appeals for all of this, they still had not acknowledged my payments, just as a form of harassment. Then, of course, I started sending emails to make them understand that this was petitioned as a prayer space and a constitutional First Amendment issue. And the free exercise clause, which states the clause protects not just religious beliefs, but actions made on behalf of those beliefs. So, as in the wind turbine, I really didn't need their permission to erect a prayer space, and it was obvious they weren't going to give it to me. Okay, I was summoned to answer for all these violations to the committee, and as there were so many legal issues on the table, I wanted to videotape it. I didn't know at the time videotaping is not allowed, although again I believe it's a legal right, but the reason it's not allowed is so that they can commit perjury against you and threaten you and coerce you without you having video documentation of it. Anybody watching this film, I do recommend that you always video and audio tape them whenever you are dealing with them, until such time they don't exist anymore, or they actually have a management company making these decisions for them. But there is Connie Estrada, who is now the present manager, I believe that's Mark Rep. We're going to see Kathleen Kennedy, Joe Buckley, and Ed Sabarborough in this video. And this is how it began. And I really just wanted to videotape. Why is that? Wait. Let me try it again. Thank you for your patience.
Yeah, there's no recording. Are you meeting?
Oh, why is that?
I'll give you, go get your copy of the resolution, yeah?
I was just asking why that is.
Because the board of directors.
So I turned it off. And immediately following this, Connie Estrada threatened to have me arrested, told me to leave or she would have me arrested. So I told her to sit down and get off her power high. And unfortunately, I did not keep recording because the members, specifically Joe Buckley and Kathleen Kennedy, got on the stand and committed perjury against me. I was just asking why that is. Hang on. Okay, here they are. They actually got on the stand and said I tried to threaten Connie Estrada right after this, or that I actually did threaten Connie Estrada right after this. I did not. All I said to her was, sit down, Connie, and get off your power high. So that turned into, I said, you better leave me alone. You don't know what I'll do to you. That's a whole other long story, but the moral of the story is always record these people. So I was called to answer these multitude of violations, and when I was called up, I began videotaping to get an accurate documentation because of the legal issues involved, the trespassing on my property, the constitutional rights, and the violation of my privacy. And this is what happened. This is Connie Estrada first.
Yeah, there's no recording. Are you meeting?
Oh, why is that?
I'll give you, go get your copy of the resolution, yeah?
I was just asking why that is.
Because the board of directors.
So the reason it's not allowed is because they can get on the stand and commit perjury against you and say you did things you didn't do and said things you didn't say. And you should always record them. Immediately following this, Connie told me to leave. She was going to call the police and have me arrested. I was naive to turn it off and wish I could have recorded it because they wouldn't have been able to commit perjury against me. But we'll move on. Well, the next thing to occur was that I was summoned to a meeting Monday, June 24th at 2019, 5 p.m. The Baca Grande POA Hall. And it was to be hearing about my lot consolidation. And when I arrived, no one was there. So I so much did not want to be around Connie Estrada that I just left. When I did, she was following me. I pulled over and let her pass me, at which time she pulled over and got on my bumper again, at which time I pulled over and began filming. So yes, at this point I am still pretty naive about who they are and what they're capable of doing and what they will do. People have told me they were corrupt and malicious and coercive and I didn't believe it, and I at this point, I guess I still felt I had an ability to maintain a home in Crestone and live a peaceful life, but that was not going to happen. I was summoned to a meeting regarding the consolidations of my lot, and that was June 24th, 2019, 5 p.m., Baca Grande POA Hall. And regarding my lot consolidation, and when I arrived, no one was there.
Cynthia Nelson. I was trying to get a land consolidation for 2 lots in Crestone. There was a meeting on Monday, July 24th. Yes. Supposed to meet at the POA. It was canceled.
I believe they've gone ahead and done it. They just recently did it, and it was approved as far as I know.
Okay.
So now we're just waiting for everything to be recorded, and then a copy of the resolution will be sent to you.
Okay, great. Did anybody call Connie Estrada and let her know it was canceled?
Oh, yeah, she's aware of everything. That's between her and Wendy. Wendy takes care of that stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
In her testimony, this is part of the court transcript, she says, I don't understand why she was at the POA parking lot at 5 p.m. anyway. Well, as it began, I was trying to leave, and Connie Estrada, the land use administrator at the time, was behind me. And I pulled over and let her pass, at which time she pulled over, let me pass, and got behind me again, at which time I pulled over and let her pass again. She again slowed down, going about 5 miles an hour, letting other traffic pass her until I was behind her. I would not pass her again, as it seemed she was playing some kind of cat and mouse game. At this point, I just followed behind her as she was going the same way I was. I stayed behind her until I became uncomfortable and left. And after I got home, she goes to the police and files a report saying that I was following her to alarm her and harass her. And this report was filed this same date, June 24th. But as you see, she admits that she was following me. And then she doesn't admit that she was following me twice. However, the video starts when we are on T Road. And she says that she only passed me one time before exiting onto T Road. And so that kind of caught her in a lie, but of course it doesn't matter to the judge, who was a member of the Baca Grande Property Owners Association and doesn't volunteer that. So that was Anna Nicole Ulrich, and she has presided over other cases for the Baca POA. And any first-year law student would know that is a conflict of interest and should not happen. And subsequently, she always votes in favor of the Baca Grande POA. A couple of days later, she filed a restraining order in which she said I tried to ram her with my car twice. She tried to ram into my vehicle a couple of times. And of course, Judge Ulrich finds that I do not find that Ms. Nelson intended to ram Ms. Estrada's vehicle. And it didn't matter, she voted in her favor anyway, because her friends lied and said I threatened her in the court when I turned off the video recording, unfortunately. Of course, I tried to go to the Saguache County Sheriff's Office and explain exactly what happened, along with the video recordings, and they did not care to view them or consider them, because they will always do what the Baca POA persons tell them to do. So this is who was then Connie Estrada, the land use administrator. They have now made her manager of the Baca Grande POA. The last manager, Kevin Flewell, quit after 2 years. He did try to introduce a business model that would require them to follow the laws of the land and not pursue these petty, fraudulent lawsuits and vindictive actions against people. And when they would not quit, he quit. Connie Estrada has had 2 DUIs. She has a long history of methamphetamine abuse. I believe that started in her teenage years. So her probation counselor even told her boyfriend that she was not capable of empathy or sympathy. And actually, I think she gets a thrill out of doing these things. I don't want to disparage anybody with an illness. She probably needs serious help. I understand she still does alcohol and pills, but allowing her to defraud people in this manner and harass the members, giving somebody so impaired that likes to spin in drama the ability to do so, is not only enabling them, but truly harming the clean paying residents and members of the Baca Grande Property Owners Association. Judge Anna Ulrich also blocked all my attempts to get subpoenas of records to show that there was just blatant perjury on her part on the stand. But so, as this nightmare is unfolding in front of me, I was also charged with violation of the restraining order because I sent an email to land use at Baca Grande, at bacapoa.com, including the other officers, explaining the situation. But you just get caught in this small town nightmare, and you can't get out of it. So I tried to sell my home, of which they blocked and scared any potential buyer. And I began receiving threats. This was the latest one. Kill yourself, please. You know, you thought of it. Just order some helium. It'll be painless. So this is 2021. I received that in August of 2021. They harassed people that tried to help me. Someone tried to get some of the documents of the people that were present at those meetings. He has since left, but they refused to provide those records to them because they knew he was asking for them for me. They say, we received your request. Unfortunately, we cannot provide the record you request, as this document is not public viewing. So here was various people traced back to Connie Estrada by her former friend. This one was Facebook, really spouting off your fake ass bullshit with your libtard logic. You're a pedophile, a supporter of rape. Call back in your hole before I let the authorities who are looking for you know exactly where you are. Fuck Dems, fuck libtards, fuck old pervy Joe, Trump 2020 bitch, I'm blowing you up all over social media, fucking hooker ass hoe. So that they threatened me with arrest. The authorities who are looking for you told me, and I did leave Crestone because I was in fear of being falsely accused and falsely imprisoned by the the Saguache County Sheriff's Department. I went to them several times with these threats and proved that they were coming from Connie Estrada's daughter, Morgan Harris, and I started receiving all sorts of vulgar texts. They apparently put me on a sex worker site. So I asked them where the site was, how I could get my name and my face off of it. This is more from Morgan. Look, bitch, this ain't Connie. She wouldn't waste her time on texting your ass. But guess what? I do. I have all the time in the world. Then as the harassment continues, I try to submit the applications they say they need, and have tons of emails, and we finally ended up appealed all the fines that they levied against me. And at this meeting, October 24, 2019, they still didn't have my balance paid up. Of course, I showed you the canceled checks and what they did, and they still didn't have a driveway permit submitted, which I had submitted several times. So they threw out all the fines and said they would waive the fines, and I needed to apply for the permit, which I did over and over again. This email is 7th driveway permit. These are pleas for them to reconcile my account. These are all the emails. I even sent the permit applications to the lawyer. And then they sue me anyway. Come March 19th, 2020. Or October, yeah. And of course you start sending everything certified mail, but and registered mail, but it really doesn't matter. They ignore it anyway, because the judges will pretty much rule in their favor no matter what. And these are just constant emails and proof that I tried to communicate with them, and it's just a game, I think, and kind of get a thrill out of it. They offered mediation. I offered binding arbitration because actually during mediation they make ridiculous demands, and if you don't agree to them or can't, then they just leave the table because they have all the leverage. And so binding arbitration would have provided an impartial judge or mediator to come to a conclusion, and based on the facts, and they would have lost. So the laws are actually about criminal extortion and threatening to induce another person against that person's will to perform or act or refrain from performing a lawful act makes a substantial threat to confine or restrain, cause economic hardship or bodily injury or damage to property or reputation of the threatened person of another person. So these were the laws they continually violate with impunity. HOAs are not permitted to prohibit an individual from installing on their own property a windmill that meets the following statutory definition: a wind electric generator. Trespassing. Trespassing on the property to get pictures of these nebulous articles that they later labeled violations is second-degree criminal trespass. The right to privacy is alluded to in the Fourth Amendment. The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches, seizures shall not be violated. Of course, the Free Exercise Clause protects religious beliefs and expression, and it also allows for violation of laws as long as that violation is made for religious reasons. So clearing my prayer space and having a building there for it was that free exercise I enjoy as freedom of religion in our First Amendment. I made it clear that I was disabled, and they only used that to their advantage. And I have migraines and seizures, and they, of course, celebrated this fact of my missing stuff and being unable to keep up with the legalese to their advantage. So as this nightmare continued, it started at a time where people came on the political scene that gave people permission to be the worst possible selves, vulgar and threatening and fascist, total disregard for laws, civil rights, human decency, and it began escalating, and I was truly in fear. Even one of the deputies with the Saguache County Sheriff's Department snickered at the QAnons that were threatening me, and that should be on a phone recording with the Sheriff's Department, but was just mocking me over the whole thing. And they refused to charge her daughter with harassment or perjury or fraud when she finally altered my status letters when I did finally get a buyer willing to buy it for below market price so I could get out safely. She padded the status letter to do more financial harm to me, and I will show you that here in a minute. But so you have the Saguache County judges being members of the Baca Grande Property Owners Association. You have the Saguache County Sheriff's Department politically supporting a kind of a violent movement and coercive and harassing, threatening movement that's going on at the time. And even though Colorado is more of a different state, Saguache County is more of a Trump state at the time. And I don't support Democratic or Republican. I believe they're both hopelessly corrupt. And I don't think they're any good guys in Washington, D.C. But yeah, during a pandemic, I went to be with my elderly mother. I wasn't sure what was going to happen in this country, and I wanted to be near her in Mississippi. So they took that opportunity to file a lawsuit and not let me know and not serve a summons. They could have sent me a registered mail. They also never attempted to serve a summons at my address of record. So what they did was publish an announcement in a newspaper called the Saguache Crestone. The judge, of course, gave them the judgment, and they stole the money out of the sale of my home. And regardless of motions to overturn the judgment and get a new trial, they were all denied. And so I was defrauded out of not just the attorney's fees, but another $1,800 that Connie Estrada added on at the last minute just to harm me even more. But they absolutely target the elderly, the mentally ill, the disabled, anybody they perceive as weak, and it just depends on what day you catch them, whether or not you're going to land in their need to bully, get a thrill out of harming you. And I know this is kind of a syndrome with homeowners associations, and who knows why it happens. People are immature and unreasonable, and perhaps they had the circumstances of their lives that they see people as wealthier, healthier, happier, or more popular, or better liked, and more successful. And they've lived in this little county, this depressed little county, and never enjoyed a lot of success or the things that perhaps they see these other people enjoying. Of course, it's all an illusion. We all have our challenges, but it probably has more to do with how they see themselves. And a person that's also chemically impaired is not going to have an accurate perception of what's going on around them. And people can be small and unreasonable, especially when they're given power and a few $1 million to bully people. So it's an unfortunate human condition, especially at the Baca Grande Property Owners Association. So while trying to sell my home, the Property Owners Association submits a status letter to the title company. This was January 18th, 2021. They say I owe $6,455.96. Then less than a month later, it's $8,253.20 before we close. And this was a fraudulent submission by landuse@bacapoa.org, which was Connie Estrada. So in the end, the sale went through, and I gave the buyer, Anthony Smith, $2,000 in case he had extra expenses for trying to cure these so-called violations. So I asked, I heard that they were easily cured, and I made an agreement that they would return the money if, or whatever difference of the money it made. They said, yes, we just paid the money for the permit, went through the POA meeting here and got all the items in question to inspection for approval. Now all I need is an okay. And then, in the end, they cured all their violations for $35, and they sent back $1,965 to me. So this is absolute proof that they were only harassing me, ignoring my emails, and trying to cause harm to me and defraud me. And I certainly want to make anyone watching aware of a compliance code they have, that when violations in compliance with these covenants are brought to the attention of the association, the matter shall be dealt with by following the procedures outlined in the compliance code adopted by the boards to communicate with the owner who is out of compliance and rectify the situation. A series of due process steps shall be followed as prescribed by the compliance code. The goal of these procedures is not punitive, but rather to bring members back into compliance with the covenant infractions. So despite all the emails, all the certified mail, they sued while I was away during the pandemic to be near my elderly mother, did not serve me with a summons. They sued, saying I needed to complete an application for excavation and construction of a driveway, culvert, fence, bridge on the property. They sued to have me remove the driveway, culvert, and little garden bridge, which were part of a prayer space. Remove any construction materials, restore the property to its original condition. They sued to have the driveway, culvert, fence, and bridge removed from the property. There was a carport on my property and another fence that had been completed, and they refused to sign off on it. They denied any efforts I made to have them sign off on it, and they sued to have it removed. And of course, reimbursement of all inflated attorney's fees and cost. And this is Judge Barbara Zollers that gives them these judgments. Judge Zollers was also the one that gave judgment by default on the Baca Grande POA versus Jonathan Jarvis. Now, Jonathan Jarvis was a mentally ill war veteran that struggled with his comprehension and functioning in life. And of course, they got the judgment. And what follows, you'll see, is a meeting of the Saguache County Commissioners, which are in collusion with the Baca Grande POA at times on some what appears to be illegal activity. What you will hear here is them discussing destruction of the property that belonged to Jonathan Jarvis at 1190 Beaver Road. What you will hear them say is that they are waiving the fees for demolition of the property, hauling away the debris for the Baca Grande POA, and recommending that it be destroyed by fire. Of course, no permits were pulled shortly thereafter. This Commissioner Anderson went into the home unannounced, broke and entered the home, woke up the resident, which was a contractor named John Lilo that was repairing the house for Jonathan Jarvis's mother that owned the property. A couple of days later, the home was arsoned and burnt down. The Saguache County Sheriff's Department failed to follow up on any complaints of the breaking and entering or investigate the arson properly. So I'll try to let you hear these words.
I'll still look for a motion.
I would move to waive the fees for the debris coming from the building. What is that, 1190 Trail Beaver Road?
It's 1190 Baca Grande Grants is our description.
Okay. For demolition of the building to be put in the landfill after they burn the structure.
And haul.
And they haul, correct. I'll second that.
Okay, for discussion. I would just want to say that I think there's kind of this idea that it is that the POA's problem and their mess, and in the end, the Baca is still unincorporated Saguache County, and in the end, it's our land codes that have to be answered to, and I also believe that in the end, it's our enforcement that has to stand up. I believe the county should do more than that. I think we should be willing to haul, and I think I still think that even though the POA has their regulations, in the end, it's county. And I think we see what the problem is. I would like to see it done. I think we should do more.
Yep. I hear where you're coming from, Commissioner, and I hear what you're saying. But this has been an ongoing problem for how many years? And yet, now, all of a sudden, it's come to where we need to take care of it as a problem. It should have been done a long time ago.
Well, the courts move slow, Commissioner.
Well, this is the first time they took it to the court.
Well, you got the clearance to do it, so the POA did.
Correct.
To tear it down, so
All right.
let's get on it.
Well, we have a motion and a second. I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, I'm going to say nay. So motion carries on a 2-to-1 vote, and we will head on. All right. Wendy, will you contact the director of the POA and let them know that the county will waive all dumping fees?
Yes, sir.
All right.
So in case you missed it, here are the minutes of that meeting. Commissioner Lovato stated that after a site visit, I guess that's when they broke in the house, he felt it could be done with smaller equipment and the POA should have more skin in the game. The building should be burned, and then there will be less debris taken to the landfill. Commissioner Ken Anderson stated that the board can waive the fees for the land use, and the POA has the equipment to get it done. Commissioner Jason Anderson stated in the end the Baca is still unincorporated Saguache County, and even though the POA has their regulations, it is still a county. I would like to see it done and think we can do more. Almost a year earlier, the Saguache County Administrator Glenn Simpson resigned. This same County Commissioner Jason Anderson, after a long pause, I asked him if they could negotiate anything to keep him from resigning. After a long pause, I told him yes, but you're not going to like it. I don't want to seem like I am threatening all of you, but if you want me to stay, this is what must change. He then handed in the following 4 conditions. Prove me wrong or immediately fix the ongoing situation I just discussed with you, that I perceived as being illegal. I cannot stay if you continue operating illegally and you pretend you don't. It's illegal. He finally says, the ethics required by my CPA license leave me no recourse but to resign my position and pray that the board has the good sense to hire a replacement with a strong finance background.
So here we are at the Spear House on Depot Trail, and fully engulfed flames, and all that hard work that our good friend Skillet did. He sold the house. You can feel the heat, from here. We're out on the road. There it is.
So you see the date of the fire was September 9th, 2020. It was arson. So the Baca Grande Property Owners Association owns the fire department and the emergency response department in the community. You will notice you don't hear any fire trucks. And the man filming this lives right beside the fire department. The structure was allowed to burn until it was complete ashes, and no intervention was really initiated to stop the fire until it was pretty much ensured that it would be burned to the ground, and of course easily to demolish and haul away. Saguache County Sheriff's Department, Saguache County Commissioners, the Baca Grande POA have been enjoying this impunity from following any local, state, federal, constitutional laws or civil rights for quite some time. So I will go ahead and play the video for you again.
So here we are at the Spear House on Beaver Trail, and fully engulfed flames, and all that hard work that our good friend Skillet did. He sold the house.